Next up, we're going to practice making a basic cube shape. You might be tempted to sketch it out using the compressed charcoal pencil, but I would not recommend it. Instead, I'd like you to use your Vine charcoal. We're just going to freehand draw this. I don't care if they're really precise, but you want to start by creating a very open Y shape. So you want to make sure that these two parts of the Ys are not 90 degrees or even steeper. It should be pretty flat. Then take a straight line down at the front. Make another line on the sides. These two should be shorter than the one in front. And then connect it up at the bottom. For the top, you want to match this angle, but make it just a little bit flatter, then match this angle, but then make it a little bit flatter, and that will give you a good basic cube shape. We can also sketch out a really simple cast shadow edge, just coming straight out from one side. This side's going to be the darkest side of our box. All right, let's start shading. Okay, first up for this top part, we're going to leave this paper white. What that means is we don't want to have a hard outline around it, so I'd like you to take your kneaded eraser and then just lightly erase the line so you can just barely see it there. Next up, we're going to do our really light value over here. We want to use the Vine charcoal. And I'm not sure how dark it's going to be over here, so I think I'm going to just erase this back just a bit more, like that. I'm going to use the Vine charcoal on its side. Since I'm working here and I don't want to smudge this, I'm going to put some paper under my hand. And also, I might want to take some scratch paper. I'll just do it right here and make sure that I've got a kind of a smooth edge going. So rub it down until it's pretty smooth before you start. And I'm just going to lightly place the Vine charcoal in that side of the cube. You'll notice I haven't gone all the way to the edge. Next, I'll take some paper towel, or you can take a piece of cloth or whatever you need to use for this, and I'm folding it up kind of into a point. I'm going to smooth this out and carefully bring it right up to the edge, if possible, without going over. And then I'm going to fudge it on this edge over here just so I can show you how to clean it up if you go over the edge. Okay, so that one's kind of fuzzy over there. On this side, I'm having a hard time getting it right up here. So what I'm going to do is take my blending stump and I'm going to rub it against the Vine charcoal and see if I can just place it right up to that edge so I can get a nice crisp edge on it. Same thing down here. Nice crisp edge at the bottom. Okay, now these two edges have turned out a bit fuzzy, so I'm going to take my eraser and just clean erase like this so I have a nice crisp edge going. I have some crumbs now. I don't want to brush across it. That's going to make a big mess. So instead I'm going to take my paper and shake it somewhere else. You can blow on it too. Don't shake it right in your work area though. You don't want to have eraser crumbs on the surface where you're working. Okay, next up we're going to go with this darker side. For this one I'm going to use the compressed charcoal. Before I get started I want to make sure it's smooth, so I'm going to take some scratch paper and drag it until I get a nice smooth edge going. Then I'm going to place it carefully like that. Just a single pass. I don't want to go too dark with this edge right here. There we go. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to take my blending paper. I can smooth it out, being really careful on this edge. I'll probably use the blending stump to get into the corners. Okay, now I'm going to switch to my blending stump. You might be tempted to use your blending stump for the whole thing. Don't do that because you'll end up with blotchy instead of smooth areas. This is really only good for the edges of things. It's good for getting into corners, but if you use it for the whole thing, you're going to wear it out really fast. Notice how I'm using it sideways. I don't want to push straight down on it because that will just smash in the tip. Okay, so that's mostly done. It's a little bit uneven on this edge. So to fix that, I'm going to take my eraser and clean it up, and then shake it out somewhere else. All right, next up we're going to do our cast shadow. This is a smaller area. It's going to be difficult for me to get in there with this in a really controlled way. So I'm just going to lay down some charcoal, but I'm also going to now switch to my charcoal pencil. So I can bring this up to the edge, draw a nice crisp edge on it. I think I'll take my cast shadow around the corner over there too. I think that'll look better. Okay, so I've put the charcoal down. I'll use the blending stump along the edge to keep it nice and crisp. I want to keep that crisp edge going. And it looks like I'm too light right here, so I'm going to darken that just a bit. There we go. I can use the paper towel for the middle part, but I do want to be careful about it. I do have some extra charcoal on here, so when I shake it I want to be extra careful that I'm not getting it everywhere. Now I'm just going to clean up my initial sketch that I did with my cube eraser. Okay, now let's say that you have an area that you feel like you went too dark. Maybe you're looking right here and you're like, you know what, it doesn't look that dark to me. How can I lighten that up? That's where the kneaded eraser comes in. You can take a section of it, flatten it out, and then just gently place it, and you can come into areas and pick up some of your charcoal so it's not as dark as it was. Okay, last up we'd like to define the top. We're going to do that with our compressed charcoal by making it dark up here. So I'm just going to take this just behind the cube edge like that, and maybe around the corner just a teeny ways, not too far, and just create a small contrasting background. You can leave it like this, or if you want to blend it out, you can take your paper, being really careful on that edge to keep it crisp. And there's a basic cube in charcoal.